protect your head with your arms if you can do that, or whatever you have around.
Okay. And
So there are accommodations.
Brent, what about you? Your advice?
Yeah, it would be the same. And I guess if you're close to a different room that's not the kitchen, I mean, maybe try to move, but it'll be things falling off the roof or falling off the wall that are gonna hit you. So you just want to be in a spot that doesn't have many of those, but you may not have time.
Yeah,
Okay.
and not in a wheelchair. So
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
You
So
know,
not in a
bend
wheelchair.
down
there
is
was
okay.
I wear knee braces, and yeah, I walk
Yeah,
slow,
I
but getting down is pretty difficult.
I take your point.
Anyway,
I
if it happens early in the morning, it sounds like in bed is safe.
I take your point.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you very
Bye.
much for your call. I'm just going to pause for a moment here. And again, BC Today at cbc.ca if you want to email us more of your thoughts. And we're back with Brent Ward. Let me go back to Brent Ward here. Anything more that perhaps someone with mobility issues but not in a wheelchair can do? Then I just want to follow up on Rhonda's point there that if you're someone who can't, if you're a senior who can't bend down.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you'd try to get into a comfortable chair. Really, what Naomi said is correct. You don't want to fall down, and so you want to try and be as safe as possible as things are happening. The good news is that if you're in a single family dwelling with wood construction, those survive earthquakes very well. And so in that case, you're more worried about, like I said, things falling off shelves, off walls, maybe light fixtures coming down.
Mm.
If you're in an apartment, it could be more of an issue depending on the age of the apartment and what seismic building codes were
Yeah,
were in effect.
that just tells me how important this discussion is, and thinking about the specific situations that
Hmm.
people have, because we can give generalized advice, but there are, the specifics that people live with. And I know there's a long list of things that people should have in their earthquake. Any just quick bits of advice on where people can go to find a list if they're putting their kits together, Brent?
Oh, I thought Naomi would
I would
take
go to
that.
Naomi as well, but I don't know if you have any thoughts about what's most important or
Oh, I don't know. It's all about the water to me.
yeah.
I make sure I have water filters and purification tablets so that, even I can go out and, take water out of one of the small lakes or ponds in the neighborhood, things like that. Everything else after that, some food, obviously medications, but Naomi's going to be the expert.
Absolutely. Naomi, any advice on what people should keep in mind?
Well, the best thing to do is to go to the Prepared BC website. So just Google Prepared BC, and there is a site that has, what you should have in your emergency kit at home. That's going to be a big thing. And with all the water and the food and the batteries and everything else you want to have in there. And then it's not a bad idea to have a grab and go bag. So maybe something in a knapsack. So that'll have food and water, flashlight, extra batteries, hand crank radio, those type of things. But it'll be smaller. You can just grab it and then leave the house with that. That it would be something you would need if your, accommodations were unstable and you couldn't return. But
Prepared
we can go
BC.
through that list. I mean, there's a great list of things that we do, and we have on both the Shakeout BC website, shakeoutbc.ca, or go to the BC government Prepared BC website.
Shakeoutbc.ca and
Mhm.
preparedbc.ca. Thank you so much to
No,
both of
it's
you. Pardon
yeah.
me.
No, it's not actually Prepared BC. It's actually a BC government website.
Okay.
But just Google Prepared BC because the actual website URL is really long.
Okay, got it. So look, Google Prepared BC or go to the
Yeah.
Shakeout BC website. Naomi and Brent, thank you very much. I do feel like there's much more to talk about here because I could see more questions by call and email. So I think we'll be having this conversation again, hopefully not after an earthquake.
Hmm.
Good stuff.
Yeah, take care, both of you. That's Brent Ward, who is an SFU professor and co-director of the Natural Hazards Research at SFU. Naomi Yamamoto is board chair for the BC Earthquake Alliance. And again, it's Shakeout BC, Prepared BC. Those are the websites, and you can Google them to find those pages. As well, it's the CBC podcast Fault Lines, and that is hosted by seismologist here at CBC, Johanna Wagstaff, and she guides you there through scenarios so that you can prepare yourself and your community for an earthquake. It's Fault Lines on CBC. It is now 12:34. Let's go to a CBC News update with Amelia John.
Good afternoon. A seismologist with Natural Resources Canada says the earthquake that shook people on the south coast this morning is part of the usual seismic activity in the region. Alison Bird says it was not related to the magnitude 4.7 quake that was widely felt on February 21st. She says the latest quakes have been relatively shallow and struck close to populated areas, making it more likely people will feel the shaking. The BC Lumber Trade Council says it strongly opposes the U.S. Department of Commerce's preliminary decision to increase anti-dumping duties on Canadian softwood lumber. The department has issued a preliminary anti-dumping rate of 20%. That's nearly 3 times the amount established 3 years ago, which is in addition to countervailing duties of 6.74%. That would bring the total levies to almost 27%, even before U.S. President Donald Trump's tariff threats. And the federal government has announced $2.3 million in funding for 12 Indigenous communities in BC through its Marine Safety Equipment and Training Initiative. It says the money will go towards the purchase of marine safety equipment and provide training to nation members, enabling them to preserve and pass on cultural knowledge. And now the BC forecast. On the north coast, a mix of sun and cloud today, windy and a high of 9. In the Peace, mainly sunny, high of +5. In the central interior, clearing this afternoon, high of 5 degrees. Highs around 9 with a mix of sun and cloud in the West Kootenay, high of around 8 in the East Kootenay. In the southern interior, a mix of sun and cloud, high of 12. And for Metro Vancouver, Greater Victoria and Fraser Valley, few showers, high of 11 degrees. And that is the CBC News from Vancouver.
And did you feel the earthquake?
No, not
yeah,
at
me
all.
neither. I was up. I was awake.
You were up and awake. I was sleeping still, and my husband, he's Australian, and he came out, and every time there's an earthquake, he just freaks out, and oh, it's another earthquake. And he said, I'm sleeping, please just go away.
Wow, he is zoomed in.
He's
is
zoomed in.
in.
Any minor little trembling. There was one like maybe 7 years ago. It was late at night, maybe past 11. Again, I was sleeping. The house started shaking, and he gets up and goes, the second wave is coming.
Oh my goodness. You know, but you got to give it to him, because as I mentioned, I felt an earthquake, I guess, about 10 years ago. We had one here in the lower mainland, and I just kind of paused and said, what was that? Because I heard something, and next thing you know, it's over, and we really should have done the things. All the things. Stop, drop, and cover, but we didn't. But so last Friday, I knew exactly what to do. Don't even question it. Just go right under your bed.
That's it.
Yeah. So now you know, and we did just talk about kudos to your husband.
Thank you. He is, much more tuned in to what's happening than I am.
It's good to have one of those around.
Yeah.
They come in handy.
Sometimes.
Amelia, thank you. Bruce wrote us that they actually have 30 days of food and 3 months of water, plus sleeping bags. We heard the earthquake and then felt it. Okay, so thank you for that. Jessica writes, please remind everyone to keep their beds away from the windows or they'll be covered in glass. So stay away from windows. Put an old pair of running shoes under your bed so you won't have to cut your feet. Thank you very much for your emails. A lot of them coming in to BC Today at cbc.ca. $12:38 now. This is BC Today. Thanks very much for joining us. Well, the 97th Academy Awards were last night. It was a show that packed a soaring Wizard of Oz musical medley by Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo, Conan O'Brien hosting, and the film Anora took home 5 trophies, and so much more. And actually, that film, which is about a sex worker who gets married to the son of a Russian billionaire, has major ties to Vancouver. Producer Samantha Kwan was born in Vancouver, and here she is making her acceptance speech after the movie won Best Picture.
We made this with very little money, but all of our hearts. To all of the dreamers and the young filmmakers out there, tell the stories you want to tell. Tell the stories that move you. I promise you, you will never regret it.
That is Vancouver-born Samantha Kwan, producer of the film Anora, that was a big winner last night. And we're asking you, what were the highlights of the Oscars for you? The lowlights, perhaps? What are your favorite moments from Oscars past? You can call us 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. If you want to email us, again, it's bctoday@cbc.ca. Jackson Weaver is a reporter and film critic for CBC's entertainment news team, and he joins me from Toronto. Hello, Jackson.
Hi there.
Very nice to talk to you. What was your own highlight from the Oscars?
I mean, you guys kind of stole mine right at the top there. I love the Samantha Kwan acceptance right there at the end. Now, Anora has been something that we've been watching in the award season for almost the entire last year as the front runner back when it won the Palme d'Or at Cannes, and then Amelia Perez pulled it in front, and then Amelia Perez fell way back into the back. Conclave, the Brewers, they're all kind of like duking out for the awards, and then as the night goes on, Sean Baker, the director, keeps getting called up. He wins Best Film Editing. He wins Best Original Screenplay. He wins Best Director. He wins, in the end, Best Picture. The film itself also got a win for Mikey Madison. It was just Lenora triumphant night. And in that speech that Kwan gave out, she was noting that they're kind of an indie film in the true Hollywood sense of the word. And that's another through line that we saw. So many of these smaller budget movies winning, Flo winning over The Wild Robot. And we also saw, Nickel Boys at least, getting all these nominations for such a small film. So that was definitely a highlight for me. There weren't many lowlights, but that might have made it a little bit less exciting for a lot of people watching.
I see. Was it 6 million that Anora was made for?
Yeah. 6 million for Anora, which is tiny for a Hollywood film. So that's why it's indie, even though that might not seem like quite so little pocket change for most of us.
Yeah, right, exactly. Isn't that just the cost of the giveaways for the stars on the red carpet? For me, okay, I'm going to say that musical opening with Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, I was moved almost to tears, just like I was when I watched Wicked, because their voices are just so powerful and so spectacular, and their chemistry together.
Yeah, I mean, I was waiting for the end of their Defying Gravity to see if she was going to do her own riff at the end or the Idina Menzel riff, and I was adequately floored by the vocal performance, even though this year, kind of strangely, they didn't do any original songs. There was no I'm Just Ken sort of performances written for these movies. But we did get all of that, back catalog, Wizard of Oz, The Wiz, and Wicked songs that we did get seeing performed. And Conan O'Brien did his own kind of strange original songs the night.
I won't waste your time, but here I go into like a 2-3 minute random musical number. Let me take some calls, but we'll talk about Conan O'Brien in a moment as well. Asking you, what were your favorite moments from the Oscars last night? Give us a call, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, or email bctoday@cbc.ca. Peter is on the line in White Rock. Hi, Peter.
Hello. I thought one of the funniest moments came when they had some fire chiefs from L.A. who, of course, were in charge of putting out those horrible fires. Yeah. And they had a few of them made comments, and one said that the actor who played Bob Dylan's voice was so good he almost did not get the part.
Timothée Chalamet.
That's right, yes.
Yeah. They were getting, that's kind of that moment of like, oh, we're actually at the Oscars. And why was that, did that stand out for you, Peter?
Because even though a lot of Dylan's lyrics are good, his voice is not the best. He was no, Tony Bennett or Mick Jagger or whatever. So it was clever.
And did you watch the movie, Complete Unknown?
No, I haven't watched that yet.
Yeah. Would you watch, are you a Bob Dylan fan?
Yeah, like a lot of his songs.
Yeah.
On the other hand, Like a Rolling Stone is kind of mean-spirited, so I'm not a big fan of that one. He's putting down this woman he used to know and say, he's glad that she's so down and out. So I don't like that.
Okay. Well, Peter, thank you very much for raising that. It is interesting, that juxtaposition, right? This like very glamorous night, celebratory, but at the same time, really giving a nod to what Los Angeles has just been through with the wildfires, and Conan O'Brien did the same. Is that something I noticed with the Grammys? That was a really big thing as well. Made sure that the tone was right. I guess I wonder to what extent these awards shows are having to grapple with the world around them as they try to present an entertaining night.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that is a through line for every award show every year, because there's always something horrible happening in the world. This time's more pressing for those in LA, as LA was an epicenter of such a horrifying and tragic event. And that was something that was kind of bandied about during the night off of that opening through line that O'Brien went through, kind of addressing the myriad scandals connected with almost every single movie nominated for an Oscar award. He then had, this is a serious moment, I need to address this. And then later on, as the caller just brought up, he brought the fire chiefs and some of the firefighters on stage to read his jokes for him. And I mean, I think one of the most surprising aspects of this night is that Conan O'Brien has not hosted the awards before, because he's such a sure hand when it comes to those host duties. And this, yeah, as we mentioned, this is something that awards do have to grapple with. I will say, though, that this is an awards this year that was not completely devoid of political messaging, but after some stumbling or some grappling with how to deal with pressing events in the world from last year, and, you know, we'll think back to the slap, obviously a huge thing that they had to grapple with. Yeah. There was little bombastic, fiery, controversial statements. There was an astounding speech made by the team connected with No Other Land, the Palestinian and Israeli war documentary. But outside of that, it was kind of muted in a way. I alluded to in the beginning. This wasn't necessarily an awards that people are going to be, oh, I can't believe this thing happened. Everything was kind of sure-footed.
Yeah, that's true. In fact, when it comes to political statements, Petra writes us, who happens to be the co-founder of the group Moms Stop the Harm for Edmonton and Main Island. Petra writes, I was very disappointed that winners for the movie Amelia Perez did not take this opportunity to mention the transgender community or speak out in support of the community, which is under threat in the United States at the moment. Keeping things apolitical is in itself political. Petra, thank you very much for your email. Goes to your point there around the kind of lack of that political content. You can let us know too, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, or send an email like Petra did, bctoday@cbc.ca. What were the highlights of the Oscars for you? And if there were any lowlights, you can let us know too. Bonnie in Nelson, hello, you watched the Oscars last night?
Oh, yes. There's a local civic theater, so I decided to go out. I had to take a taxi because I just had knee surgery, so I can't drive. Anyway, no, that's why I'm resting today. We did it this time in a sushi restaurant, and it was very noisy. But all of us from the civic theater, because I volunteer there, were doing all these guessing who is going to win the
right. Yeah, that's fun.
Yes. Well, I've been a feminist for everything. So every woman, it was wonderful to see women and black people and white people and presenting for a change. And I've been in theater all my life, so I love the musical things that go on.
Right.
Yeah, and Conan, and I sort of, I did karaoke because I play Bob Dylan's theme on my radio show. The times they are changing. So I sang,
Bonnie,
yes,
can I ask you, Bonnie, since you were at your local community theater, why is celebrating the Oscars important for, did you talk to people there about, why are we celebrating essentially Hollywood here? Although there were many indie films.
That's so amazing, because the guy that talked about local theaters.
Yeah.
It was so wonderful. We have a local theater. Everything was put together by community here.
Oh, that's so fantastic.
The local theater almost closed. I was there at the very beginning. Yeah. There were 3 people that organized a meeting, and 65 showed up. And we've had that theater forever. Oh. And the same thing with Capitol Theater. So this community is just Amazing.
Shout out to the local theaters in Nelson. Bonnie, thank you very much for that. And I imagine that they were talking about the fact there were smaller films here that were nominated as well as a big part of the show. Michelle is joining us now from Gibson's. Hi, Michelle.
Hello.
Thanks very much for calling in.
So the low light for me, I mean, it was all enjoyable. I don't usually watch the whole thing right from beginning to end, but just happened to this time. But it's the thing that picked me the most was Adrian Brody when he accepted his award, and he bullied the producers and the orchestra into giving him more time because he felt, and he just hemmed and hawed and didn't have much to say. Should have just gotten to the point that he made at the end well before he did. I thought it was very arrogant because they were right at the end of the show and they were running out of time. So he basically stole time from other people by doing that. Very selfish.
Okay.
So,
Michelle,
anyway,
but overall an enjoyable show, the rest of it.
Yeah, some of it. I saw some of the movies. I think the quality of the movies has really come down, over the years. Some of the, movies that, like Nora was a fun movie, but it's not one of those movies that I'll watch again, 20 years from now. So,
well,
anyway.
Sounds like you're a fan of movies. You're a bit of a movie buff. Nice to hear from you, Michelle and Gibson's. And so I'm just looking here. I just quickly Googled Adrian Brody's speech. I did not know this, but The Guardian is saying he broke the record for the longest ever. Is that right? Acceptance speech?
Yes.
At the Oscars?
So he was also in The Brutalist is a very long movie. He first broke the record. Now he is, of anybody that's won the Best Actor category, he had the most screen time ever. And then I guess he took the stage with that in his mind and said, I'm going to have the longest speech ever as well. And he went up onto stage. If you were watching along, you saw he spoke for a while. The music started to play and he said, no, I've done this before. Turn the music off. I have more things to say, which is also strange because at the top he said, I promise I'll be brief. And I don't think that was necessarily the case. And I have definitely been hearing some of this criticism that the previous caller said as well. And it has been paired with as well what that caller said, that it's not only that he took more time than everyone else, and we had a lot of first, Paul Tazewell, the first Black man to ever win the costume design, Zoe Saldana, the first American of Dominican descent to win that Oscar. And then he spoke for quite a long time without necessarily a really pointed message to have. So a lot of criticism is, it's one thing to talk for that long, which is maybe not the best look, but if you're not going to say something that is going to be lasting and really pointed and really important, why are you taking that much time?
But didn't he talk about, lingering traumas of racism and oppression?
He did have, so this film is about a Holocaust survivor, immigrates to the United States and deals with oppression, deals with, as he mentioned in his speech, anti-Semitism and othering. I don't necessarily think that he had in the statement, as the Northern Land team did, a pointed political message to speak to in a very deliberate and specific way. Throughout the night, we kind of had allusions to bubbling political issues that are ongoing. Guy Pearce had a Free Palestine pin that he wore. He didn't actually get up onto stage. Jeremy Strong, nominated for his role in The Apprentice about Donald Trump before he was the president, said that it's a very, very dark time to be talking about this before he got cut off by the interviewer. So there are all these moments and these speeches that kind of danced around what they really wanted to say. And if Adrian Brody wanted to really speak to one specific moment, event, idea, issue, that would be one thing. But I think the takeaway is that he was kind of, I don't want to say rambling, but he was saying a lot of things that weren't necessarily as pointed as they could have been if he was going to have the longest acceptance speech in the Oscars history.
Which apparently he has broken that record. Oh my goodness. This is the very interesting debate about his acceptance speech. We have some really nice emails here. Let me just go through them here. We have an email from Mina who writes, great to hear and see Morgan Freeman and Mick Jagger. And Wendy writes, I loved much about the Oscars. Regarding documentaries, please shout out to non-winners like Black Box Diaries. Such a great brave Japanese woman journalist story. and our own critical, I was going to talk about this, yes, the BC documentary Sugarcane, which, of course, a lot of people have been talking about here. It is an investigation into the generational trauma of residential schools. What a slate of documentaries that people had this year at the Oscars.
Absolutely. I mean, those one, like Black Box was Diaries was the first film I saw of those films. I saw it at Hot Docs, blew me away. Sugarcane, about the lingering, as you mentioned, effect of residential schools. Julian Brave Noise Cat behind it. It's an impressive document, an incredible documentary. Canada is pretty well healed when it comes to nominations in that category. It's a disappointment that they didn't win, but it's a huge accolade to get nominated there. I mean, looking as well to the short documentaries, there were some very impressive documentaries there as well. The one that won is The Only Girl in the Orchestra, about Orrin O'Brien, the first woman to play in the New York Philharmonic. But elsewhere, there were so many important documentaries. Instruments of a Beating Heart is a Japanese documentary about a children's orchestra that is heartbreaking. You should absolutely watch it. Incident about a police shooting that is harrowing and clinical. So much strength in the documentary category, though I think the win, No Other Land, was absolutely deserved.
Let's end on a note about the host. I want to talk about the host. As you said, he's sort of so reliable, right? But we have a clip here of Conan O'Brien. This is him doing a bit with John Lithgow, him trying to warn winners to, speaking of Adrian Brody, keep their speeches short. Here it is.
First, if your acceptance speech goes too long, instead of playing you off with music, we have something much more powerful. We'll cut to John Lithgow in the audience looking not angry, but slightly disappointed.
What did you think of Conan as host?
I think he was phenomenal. As I mentioned before, it's astounding that he hasn't done that before. I'm a little disappointed they didn't actually cut to John Lithgow because that was a great face.
Didn't they? Pardon me, I thought I saw him.
Oh, maybe I missed that.
Yes,
I was hoping
face.
for it, but I might have been looking down at that moment. But O'Brien was such a consummate host, and it's so difficult for this award show specifically because, as I mentioned, there was so much scandal attached, or controversy, let's say, attached to so many of these movies, and he brought them up. Carla Sofia Gascon's had her racist tweets unearthed by Canadian journalist Sarah Hagee. He mentioned that. He did not shy away from that. The Drake-Kendrick feud, for some reason, it made its way into the movie.
About halfway through, yeah.
Yes, he touched on that, and he was a really confident guy up on stage. I will say again, there wasn't necessarily anything to write home about in terms of I can't believe this happened moments, but he definitely wove between all of these things. And I mean, we got to the end of the award show without pulling our hair out in the war room, press room here over in Toronto.
I can imagine, and I really did think he was such a pro. Just that you could see the experience of the comedian in him. Even when jokes were kind of falling a little flat, he knew how to save them and just come back. You didn't even notice. And I appreciated that. You know, coming off of Nikki Glaser who did so phenomenally as well at the Golden Globes. It's nice to see hosting successes at award shows now.
Yes.
I think I'm going to very quickly sneak in Patricia and Kelowna. I have 30 seconds, but Patricia, what was the highlight for you?
So the highlight for me is the Oscar goes to the I'm Still Here. It's a Brazilian movie, and this is the first time a Brazilian movie win the Oscar. So yeah, this is the best for us as Brazilians and for the community from Brazil as well.
Oh, did you cheer in the air and scream in the air?
Yeah, for sure.
Patricia, I'm so happy that you got to be on the program. Thank you very much. That's Patricia in Kelowna. Jackson, so fun to talk to you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Jackson Weaver with CBC's Entertainment News Team.